Good morning, everybody. Jack Leeson with StartupTrading.com. It is 9:15 in New York, the 26th of March here, doing a technical analysis video for the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. And my question here today, I'm short going into the open, but can we get down into the extensions that I was looking for yesterday? That's kind of like my bigger picture uh, theory here. Let me show you guys what that is. So we're gonna blow up the Nasdaq here to start off the day. We came out of this big old traditional. I do think we will eventually get this next halfway back long. So let's just be clear. That is all the way down at 20,269. And if we don't hold the extension, that is where we will go. So what we had was Monday, the 17th, March 17th. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Monday, March 17th high to the high at the end of the day, Monday. Now this looks kind of uh, messy here. Let me get rid of my studies. We came down and traded that in the overnight session and then basically completed targets off the open. And I was hoping we would get all the way back down into that same anchor new high. Now that same anchor new high, the 50% retracement is 20,352, and the 38 here is going to be right around 20,397. Okay, my premium level for today is going to be just above that prior day high, and that's going to be the negative 61 of the extension that traded on the prior day. We may not even get there in the overnight session, and I'm going to go back, throw my studies on here. Yesterday we spent the entire day above the upper mid, the orange line right here. And what I'm expecting us, we very rarely go back to back days above upper mid. So we were above the upper mid, we rotated back down into it, shortly after the European, or I'm sorry, not the Asian Open, I should say. And then you can see we continue to rotate high, lower. But then we finally, really put in lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, giving us that structure to sell into that 50% retracement. And that's what I've sold into here this morning. Now that 50% retracement is going to target the midpoint near this 20,402. And then we're going to have really our first test of support, and that's going to be that 38% retracement, which is going to be 20,396. Now, we'll see if we have a aggressive sell off the open, we could be there within 15 minutes. And if we are there within 15 minutes, we're probably going to the 50. But I would really start to get wary of us if we don't hold this or get a bid off this 396. The next support level below is going to be at 20,352. And I definitely think that could potentially be on the table today. Now let's remove the extended session. Let me show you what that would look like. That would look like us basically coming back into some of the price action and really where we broke out of here on Monday. So I'm going to move my discount level up to that. If at any point in time we do start losing that level, we can, I think, start anticipating a full 50% retracement at 20,069. But at this point in time, I'm going to be bearish down into these or until we hit these price actions, and really only switching biases if we can break and hold above yesterday's close, which I find probably going to be pretty hard to do. So if we can break a hold above 20,500, I'll start to anticipate that maybe we can move up into that premium level at 20,577. But at this point in time, holding this 50% retracement, I do think we're going to rotate down into the 20,351 at that point in time. It's bulls to prove here. The most aggressive bid, though, is going to be this 20,396. And so that's going to be the areas I'll look for potential support levels. So, but I am short off this halfway back in the NQ. We'll see if we can get some momentum. Yesterday was really I mean, I know we had a run at the close, but really it was two-sided. There was shorts during lunch, even shorts that have reacted after. Obviously, the day overall was higher, but if you get rid of the extended session and look at the prior day, it was pretty much a range. We spent more time going down, but the faster moves were higher here. So that's what I got for the NQ. And then moving on to the S&P 500. The S&P actually got its upper mid yesterday. So the orange line, that was the low, literally. So what we had was the extension was more aggressive. It was Wednesday's high from the 19th. If you remember, the draw in the Nasdaq was from the 17th, and we actually saw this trade on Monday and then complete into the open. And then that same anchor new high, let me show you this price action. It was kind of interesting here. Into the close, we were dilly-dallying around. There was a 50% retracement short here in the ES. That traded and then came just shy of its target, and then I don't know if there was like some type of news event or whatever, but at 3:35, you can see this big old. It's actually an ATR candle. It's a 10-point candle. It's just a. I think it. I don't know if they call that a gravestone doji or some. I forgot what they call that candle, but basically huge range, range expansion. But we come down. We trade this 38. We move higher. Actually, let me go to a 1 minute. You can kind of see how wild that candle was. Here it is. And it was funny because as this candle was happening at literally 335, which is interesting, the Nasdaq was moving higher and the ES dropped about 7 points in a minute and then instantly overtook it and began a series of longs. It was almost like if that was possibly some manipulation, but what it did was it came in to that 38% retracement, and then what we did from there is we continue to rotate higher. Now we have not made a new high. We have not made a new high. Um, that upside target would be the premium level. I have 58, 52. So what I would expect here is us actually to maybe test the 50 this morning, and that's going to be a 58.03. Okay, so 58.03, 58.04 is going to be my first level of support. But what's also interesting is if you look at the short that we basically traded, never completed target, ran right back up into the close, that is a 58.25.75. So that's about a point below or a point above where we're currently trading. I would, if sellers going to come in, they're going to stick this level here again and they're going to drive it down to this 58.04. So that is very important for the ES to hold here. If the ES does not hold that, we have the possibilities of us eventually making our way all the way down into realistically 57.44, and even then it's going to be in the middle of the gap. That'll be a discount level if it gets there. But if we lose this extension here today, 58.03s, then we're probably going to be in some form of another working our way down into that full halfway back. So, if you're on that short bias that I am right here, one of the trades you can look at right at the open is really just selling into this 58.25. And I mean, the ATR, let's see what the ATR was at close on the 5 minute chart. You probably wouldn't need, it was 8 points on the 5 minute chart. So that stop puts you above that 78% retracement. So I actually might just go ahead and see if I can get filled. I'm already short the NQ, but see if I can get filled just below that 58.25 and a spike up off the open. And we should stay below that 8 point ATR range, I think, and make our way down, which is basically 20 points from that entry. But that's going to wrap up my morning trade plan. Kind of bias into the discount levels, a bearish bias into the discount levels I had mentioned here today. And then, hopefully they stick and we continue higher. If not, we're going to move deeper into those pullbacks. But that's going to wrap up my morning trade plan. Everybody, I'll talk to you guys in the room and jump on the Discord.